Now we've listened to two different examples where they are actually demonstrating this as test and demo beds, and they would like to go into full-scale commercial facility. But how do we do that with the existing grant scheme today? Are we missing an intermediate step here, as Tore was sort of trying to say, to get into the market for production in large industrial scale? Would you like to start, Peter?
Yeah, an intermediate step would mean a step after the Wildcamp project. I mean, the step we are doing now with the demonstration we are expecting it to be the last step before we go to commercial scale. As an intermediate step, I mean, I could think of if we would start up a first commercial plant, of course there will also be a learning curve, and the demo facility will not reduce or make all risks disappear to zero. So there will be still some troubleshooting, learning during the initial phase of the first commercial plant, and that of course affects again overall profitability of such a plant. And if I can think of an next intermediate step, it would be this learning curve when starting up a flagship.
And Tore, you said that it's just to do it, we don't have to wait. Where's the decision, really?
Well, wasn't that the message, just do it, earlier today? Yeah, I think some of the cases, of course, looking at the technology maturity and so on, you need to do some. But for some of the process, you need to go to the next step and to plan and get, so to say, the risk management in the context of funding support. That is, I mean, the equipment, the processes are off the shelf, so it's as close as you can come. It doesn't really make sense to build a 20 times bigger or 30 times bigger. You need to go to the commercial for some of the cases. So, and then it's guts and courage and some kind of funding risk management.
And Birgitta, from a RISE perspective, how do you look at it?
I think we should divide different things here. I think we should divide between pilot scales, demo scales, and first full-scale installation. And I'm not exactly sure what we are debating here, to be a bit frank. I think that the TUD units that Pia was talking about this morning, that is frequently held by the institutes, are very important as an intermediate step before the demonstration step that has been described here. That is a bigger investment to do the demonstration step. However, I think that these different scale of units have about the same problem. You have first an interesting group of people putting money into doing this at any scale level. Then you could easily run projects on that to demonstrate, make proof of concept of something. After that has happened, as you will figure out now, you will have a flagship project and all the focus will be on that instead. So the question for you will be, how can we make the demo plant survive the period when the flagship demonstration tends to find out some certain problems that need to be demonstrated again on the demo level. The same goes with pilots. So when we have tested on a pilot level things, that will be transferred into a demo plant or sometimes even an investment. But the problem arises how to finance the period in between, the value of death for pilots or for test or demos or whatever. And there is no financing for that. And that's not only keeping the unit and renting the room, space, building, wherever it is in, it's also the skilled people that have the knowledge of running the unit that we need to keep during this period of time. And that money is not within RISE. It's certainly not within the universities. It's not among the companies. So I don't exactly know where that money is. And that's a problem for us. And as long as the demonstration economy will be even more pronounced, going forward, I think this will be an escalating problem, how to finance that.
Yeah, and Ulf, you have really good experience of that Valley of Death for demonstration plant from Piteå.
Exactly. As you probably know, we have the black liquor gasification plant in Piteå. And that plant it has showed a proof of concept We know that it is possible to gasify black liquor. We can produce methanol, we can produce DME. But the problem is that the market is not there, or we can't go to commercial scale because it's not possible to make it profitable. So we're sitting now with a big, expensive demonstration plant that costs something like 30 million to run each year. But exactly as you say, there is no really money to keep this plant going. It has to be connected then to new projects, new research. But when you have a case where you have already shown proof of concept, it's kind of hard to invent new research. Okay, you can look at other feedstocks, you maybe can look at other things to do, upgrading DC gas to other things. But then we also have the problem with the scale. It costs 30 million a year just to run it. So you really have to do it on high scale. I think the biggest problem that we have actually today is to make this with profit.
How about the cooperation, as Tore said, or was it Peter, that they come people from South America that would like to do tests on these facilities and they don't know that they're actually existing? How do you cooperate between the facilities that actually exist in northern Sweden?
Well, I think we have, it's two different kind of demo equipment here. In Piteå, it's thermochemical conversion, and you have more biochemical. So they are kind of, they are not competing, but they are not also focusing on the same commercial route. So I don't know. Partly maybe we could help each other because you can take some part of these streams in your processes, and we can take other part of the streams.
Of course, if you're some kind of gasification of lignin or whatever, some residues can be used up in, but then in the cold content. But not only technology-wise, maybe marketing-wise, some kind of a front desk approach. We had some internal discussion last week, I think. Is it any possibilities regarding maybe distance monitoring that we can utilize, maybe personnel in one place that can during some overnight trials and so on? So that discussions need to be started, and I have not been involved. I know that there have been discussions ongoing, but I think that we need to bring up to the table again how to, and not only in Piteå, maybe other that require a little bit more complicated more complicated operation, and the staffing needs to be maybe 24 hours and so on.
But now, Clara, I guess you have heard a lot of sort of ideas about how to do this and how to get through this. But how is your thoughts? How do you sort of distribute new grants?
Well, I think one important thing is here we are comparing very different things, and for instance, the case in Piteå, it was built for a certain purpose, from commercial step in the next phase. So the market wasn't there, and I think you really need industrial partners in that part to take the next step. There must be an interest from other parties. It's not the state funding authorities that could take all the responsibilities for keeping this plant for perhaps 10 to 15 years until we have a market for these products. So, of course, we have invested a lot of money together with many organizations and support, but we can't until, well, you could do a lot of things, but then it's not possible any longer. And of course, if you have a test bed or an open infrastructure for a pilot testing, for instance, that's another case. Then you could have different projects going on and new possibilities. Perhaps you could change some small things, and then you could have another idea to test. But this Piteå infrastructure was built for a very specific case.
Yeah. And do you have other thoughts about that from Vinnova?
I agree with this discussion. I have two purposes here. This large investment that you need money to run each year, and maybe smaller test and demonstration facilities that can be used in several projects. But from Vinnova point of view, our mission is to finance projects within research and innovation. And I think it's really good that we use test and demo facilitation, and especially things that already exist, so we can use them in a good way. One thing that's good to think about when you build this, work with this test and demo facilitation, build a strong consortium around them. So you have many stakeholders that can use it and can share a risk with this test and demo. And also think about use it flexible, so you can have it in several purposes. Different kind of material product, different kind of processes can be tested, so it can be used in several kind of innovation projects later.
Is there sort of a too heavy research focus than market focus on these demo plants, you think?
No, that was not the case, but it was necessary to build this demonstration plant. You could compare with Gobegas, for instance, in Gothenburg. It was also built for a specific purpose, but the market wasn't there. So, but we have other cases where everything has been put together in a very good thing. But there are many. It's a complex situation which you must handle somehow.
Yeah. So how can we go on, Birgitta? What's the next step?
I think we need to, without putting any at all subjective ideas on whatever your problems have been up here, but I think it's very important that we at some point evaluate the reason for keeping a pilot alive and the flexibility in every specific pilot. And if we could agree on a more, let's say, national level, that it's important to have a certain amount of demonstration units for the good of Sweden, then there should also be possible to raise money for that. If there are specific projects with a group of industrial financiers or other type of financing that fails, then that is not what we are talking about continuing. But there is in this, a lot of money goes into basic research, as you saw from Pia's picture this morning. There should, from my point of view, maybe because I'm the head of a division in RISE, I think there is a reason for also having certain amount of money that goes for keeping a pilot, semi-full-scale amount of units within the nation of Sweden for our own good. And then we should make sure that they don't die because there is no money. The ones that we don't think could be made use of in the future, that this was a mistake, it's a proven concept, there is no money in it, let's drop it. But there is certainly a lot of other projects and pilots that are of big value for us. And if we close them down, it will be even more costly to build them up again when they are needed some years later on.
Ulf, first.
I just want to add there that, I mean, in this case, what the consequences will be when we shut down a demonstration plant like this is brain drain, and we also lose a lot of capital. And if we can say, yes, it's a technology that might be interesting in the future, I don't say if it could or it could not, but if it could be interesting in the future, and we know that we might need this competence, this demonstration, when the oil prices is going up, or when we really need to want to convert to a bio-based economy, well, then we have lost maybe 4 or 5 years of development and thrown 400 million crowns in the trash bin just because we can't keep up the technology for shorter, longer period of time. So I think it's expensive, but still, from a national point of perspective, it's not so expensive. It's a few crowns for each citizen in Sweden.
Clara, could they have done a different way?
Well, I just want to say that I think when we say that something perhaps is in a long-term strategy, I would say gasification is plays an important role probably, and therefore we are putting money into a Swedish Gasification Competence Center to build competence while the market is not there. So we try to keep that part of our research and innovation funding going, while other things perhaps is not possible to take at the moment.
Peter, what do you think they should do to be able to boost this?
Exactly when a question came to my mind, you are asking, this is good, otherwise I might have been caught empty and blank. But I understand the plant is designed to gasify black liquor. Is it an idea, or is it completely nonsense to think about to convert it maybe to also gasify maybe wood residuals or forest residues?
No, it's not. They are looking at that.
Yeah.
There are possibilities, but once more, I mean, we're at a scale now that costs a lot of money to do it. So it's hard to find projects also when you need industrial funding to, well, maybe pay for 50% of the fundings to continue to work with this on this level of development, so to say.
I understand that one of your challenges is that when you want to set up a gasification plant, you have to integrate it to a partner somehow. Is that so?
Yes, exactly. I
and
think
if you would
that's
use maybe the forest residue, so you could decouple this and maybe gain new perspectives also for your application fields.
they're working with that.
Yeah.
So
Great, that's good advice. Yeah, Clara, what do you?
I just want to say that I think sometimes the money is not the problem. It's also that we have, as a funding agency, we have some EU rules that we have to follow, and we are not able to support, for instance, just running the demo plant. It must be some kind of activity connected to running it that we could support. So it's not that just giving some money, because we have money, but of course we have to invest them in the right projects or initiatives. Or
Yeah, Tore?
Now we're really talking about the demo plant as something that is first of all, as a technology, I don't care really what we call it. I need some kind of a tool to convince my client, my customers, that we can develop it, and then we can supply the technology we are doing. That's really what we call it at the side. That depends on the case as such. Right? It's difficult to really say where the support should be. That I fully agree. But one thing, when we talk about support, as has been the case for us, we are a technology developer. We have been financing and developing the demo plant for 12 years. The last 4 or 5 years, when the discussion came up how to handle the demo plant here in Örnsköldsvik, because we didn't consider that we need the demo plant 100%, but we need it for 25 1 year, and we need it for 15 1 year, we need it for 40% next year. And how to handle that? You cannot finance, Cleantech alone cannot finance the plant with that kind of occupation. We need something to support, and there I think the funding authorities has been, as I show, and we need to continue that and maybe develop it in some way so it can incorporate other facilities also. But it's very important, because like now we can supply to the client. You can say we are close to something. I wouldn't say agreement, but it's very close to something at least. We can take their feedstock. We can produce it. We can produce the exact product that they need. They can grab it and feel okay. They can take the operators to the plant and more or less go into the control room, sit in front of the screen, and you cannot see if it's a small or big plant. Of course, if you look at the flow and maybe some at the size of something, but otherwise it looks like a full scale. And that is a real advantage for us as a technology provider. And we like to get that going on so we can continue to be compatible, because a lot of funding has been coming. Cleantech has been spending a lot of money. It's time to pay back sometime, and that is an important tool to reach that stage. And that's why we are struggling. You know, and just one thing: this local focus entrepreneurship. That is something that we want to bring. We have the needs. We're talking in the industry. Yeah, we need it. Let's check. We will spend 30%, maybe 25% cost, or finance 20% of operations, and we will probably also bring new things because we have it online all the time. So get this extra. I don't think the funding should be 100%. It may be 40%. 50% or 30% something, but some kind of a program that doesn't die after 2 years, or how do we make this long-term vision?
Yeah, so maybe you can answer that.
No, I'm more curious. The time that you don't use this test and demo facility that you have, is it possible that you make it available to other people?
It is. It's not a Cleantech. It is the main owner of Umeå and Luleå University. So we are the operators.
Is it difficult to get others to use it? Or
No. The collaboration with SP, Andreas and Sura, the last 2 years, that's why this collaboration with SP and RISE, that was exactly that. We used it 30%, the other 60%, that was RISE project or SP projects.
Yeah.
Well, Clara, you mentioned earlier about demonstration plant that they should be built more flexible, and I totally agree with you. And there you had a very specific case, as you say, in Piteå, where you had industrial partners wanting to do something very specific. And I think that's when we fund demo plans in the future, it should be part of the funding to also make sure that they are built more flexible.
Well,
that's something that we can learn maybe from the case in Piteå.
Possible, but I'm not sure if I was saying more or less that some must be built flexible
Yes.
in order to be, but others should be very specific because you have to show something specific as well. So it's not for sure that you have to decide depending on the case.
It seems like you're very shy sending questions to Twitter, so I'll try to send out the question here. Yeah?
I just want to say that maybe not everybody has Twitter or can.
Yeah. So we do a small change here. Jenny, could you please go around with the microphone? So did you have a question? No? We just wanted to. So do we have a question somewhere to the panel? This is a very shy audience. Janne Lindstedt.
I'm not so shy.
No, that's good.
I don't need a microphone either.
Yeah, I'm John Lindstedt from earlier SECAB, been involved in this development for a long period. Earlier we had a program for the cellulose to ethanol development, together with the Energimyndigheten and also the universities. That is one thing that I lack today. We should have a program that is more focusing on the development until we get to a commercial site. And then it could be included, this, let's say, first production scale unit as well. Because there is a need for as we have heard, for governmental finance. And that is also the same regarding DME and methanol. If the community, the government, the society wants DME, they should have both, of course, the rules and taxes and things like that, which seems to be coming into place now. But I'm lacking the long-term programs that we had earlier. So do you have some comments on that from Energimyndigheten or Vinnova? Is that possible to create again, to have long-term programs?
I don't know exactly what you mean by long-term programs, because we have had these, for instance, biofuel programs since in the ethanol, for instance, since the 80s, and it's still running. And we have nowadays also the thermochemical program that is running, and the Swedish Gasification Competence Center and fossil-free fuels, the program F3. So there are many different things, and pilot and demos are financed both within the programs if they are not so big, and then there are possibilities to always apply for financing for whenever you have an idea, you could come and contact us and discuss these things. So I think we are very open for initiatives. So if you have a strong case and you have a interesting group of initiatives, you are very welcome.
Yeah, excuse me, I forgot one. Coordinated programs. Because in the 80s and early 90s, or during the 90s, before we built this pilot, then we had a coordinated programs that was led by Energimyndigheten. And that I'm now lacking, because now you give money to different kind of projects. And I don't see the coordination on a national level today as we had earlier, and might be needed.
Okay, thank you, Jan.
Okay. I can say something from Vinnova too. Even if we don't have program that address cellulose in the title, we have a lot of program that you can use. For example, we have one working with testbed in environmental engineering. It should probably be useful for you. And another huge program is challenge-driven innovation. It's a broad scope for societal challenger. And I'm sure that you can work there. And we also have one program called Bioinnovation that is driven by the stakeholder within the area of bioeconomy. So it's a lot of possibilities that you can apply in.
Okay, thank you. Now Anders has a question.
First a comment, and that is that although I'm not a politician any longer, I must admit that having listened to this debate and these presentations beforehand, very interesting on the one hand, but extremely difficult to sort of capture now where is the problem. I'm confused at possibly a higher level. That was only a comment. But my question would be to maybe to one of you two, because you say that at the end of the tunnel there is a possibility of a lot of consumer products based on wood and not on fossil fuels or fossil based. And what will it require? We leave aside the smart biofuels for a moment, which have to do with long-term markets, maybe CO2 taxation or some kind of quota system. But if you look at green chemistry in general and all these consumer products, what will it require to have sort of some kind of increase in demand and awareness? Because my understanding is that most consumers don't have a clue about these possibilities. What are you doing to create markets? Leave aside the political system for a moment. What is really happening there? How do you convince a big retailer to start offering your products instead of the conventional ones?
That's a good question. Who would like to start? Birgitta?
I can start that. That's a very interesting question, and I think we are back again to the cost situation. There is, for instance, on the market today, jeans made 30% out of paper and 70% out of jeans. Very exclusive. The cost for a pair of jeans is 3,700 crowns. Yeah, that's a niche product, I would say. To make that available, not on paper, threads, which is a bit of a fancy thing, of course, but to make it available, textiles on a much larger scale, and not talking about the viscose that we have for a long time, but for other reasons, or other type of consumer products, that is to be competitive with these type of products on an existing market, or to present something new that is a niche product, very exclusive, that someone has to want to pay for. Yeah. So that is where we fail right now. And during the last couple of years, when I have been the head of Inventia before we became RISE, this is what we see when we are working in the field of making new green products. That is a drop in oil price. There is a drop in the possibilities of getting money from EU projects, because they are closed down because there's no reason anymore, because the oil prices are so low currently. So we are blocked by that. We need one or two things. The possibility to do a lot of products with a good cost level, or an extremely high oil price to make the cost level higher. Yeah. No. So we have to do the first. And to do the first, we have to take what we can today and demonstrate that on different scale to convince someone that there is an economical interest in producing this on a larger scale, because there is no company in Sweden that would like to produce something that is on a higher cost level than current products of today. So that's the main problem.
Clara, would you like to add something?
Yes, I just want to add that I think we sometimes has too much technical focus as well, and perhaps too little business or marketing focus when we take these steps towards commercialization. So it's very important to perhaps in the project or initiative have much more competencies than we usually have in many cases.
Yeah. We have another question here.
Okay, I'm Lars Lind from Perestorp. We are involved in bio-based chemicals and biofuels a lot. And I think I made as many calculations as Göran Persson here in different cases. And I think one of the big problems is to find the right business case, because bio-based raw materials are almost always more expensive than oil. So if it's not a real business case, these projects will never fly. But assuming that there is a market and there is a business case, then the question to the panel here, what is preventing us from going commercial directly? Building a demo plant takes a number of years. We spend several hundred millions and we still get something that isn't really commercial. Isn't there techniques today to simulate and scale up technologies that are relatively well known since many, many years to go directly to a larger scale? Why do we aim for so many demo plants?
Yeah, good question. Who would like to start? Tore?
I think a little bit connect your question. I agree. It is. Well, I can tell you when I looked at my presentation, what was my message when I looked through before yesterday evening, and I said I was a little bit fragmented, and a little bit the way it is. We're talking a bit in different scales here, both on R&D, and then that's why I told you about what the demonstration scale. That is everywhere, so to say. And I fully agree. And the thing that we a little bit lose in this discussion, because you are not sitting on that funding possibilities that we actually need right now. We are not talking about, we are talking about commercial scale and something, and we are very, very close. And the main drive we need to do, that is to find the case. And that, of course, we as a very small partner, we are a technology provider, we're not really in the value chain, but we're trying to create those value chain and see if we can get the retailer, a small one, but still, to represent that, maybe take something into that, and of course it has to be commercial available and so on. But I fully agree. We need to come to the building in the case where technology is mature enough, and there are several of them for sure. And I guess, for example, larger scale economic, you can go from, so to say, the Domsjö mill is a full-scale demonstration plant, and you have provided that there is a business now, you can scale it up, whatever, 5-10 times or something. And it's the same for some of the technology. We need to go to a scale. And the discussion become a little bit of a hypothetical discussion. And that's my last point. We need to present the case. Go and find the case, and as someone said here, if a good idea, you will get funding. Or if a good case. It doesn't really an issue. So it's a little bit get things done and discussing things why things doesn't work. And so it's a mix. So we are a little bit here and there, and sometimes you need to. This is what you get, and you present a consortium. You go down to Stockholm or wherever and present the very great case we have in Örnsköldsvik with the municipality, with Domsjö, with Seka, with everyone, Holmen, with whoever. Here we have the case, and then we need that amount of money. So we have to be more distinct. I fully agree. It's a little bit of a confusing discussion, but that's a little bit the situation is also. We are on different levels, and building bioeconomy. Where do you start?
I think Ulf would like to add something.
Yes, we actually have two cases in Piteå where you can have the extremes on both sides. You have Sandpine that started with lab scale like this and went full commercial directly from that. So that's one case, and the other one is the gasification. And I think the big difference is that Sandpine is standing alone. But if you want to gasify black liquor, you want to replace the recovery boiler. And that's a complete other case when it comes to risk. You have to show that you have a technology that can run 24/7, 356, 6/5 when you work with gasification. So I think that might be one of the reasons where you in one case need a demonstration plant and the other one you don't. Just to give example.
Yeah. Okay, we have another question.
Yeah, Sylvia Larsson, Swedish University of Agricultural Sciences. I'm just thinking, these guys who have been or are still in politics, would it at all be possible to include the costs and the gains that are within a market when we have our own feedstock instead of paying all the guys in Saudi Arabia and trying to keep it within Sweden instead? And would it be possible to make a case out of that? Or are we totally tied by the European law?
So who's going to answer that? Is that the panel?
It's not only European law, it's WTO.
So maybe Anders could answer that question.
This is the only area, and I guess somebody will criticize me now, but this is the only area where I think Trump has a point. That trade rules over the last 25 to 30 years have more or less disregarded both social and environmental aspects and local production. I remember when I was reviewing the procurement directive and I came to Östersund, and the procurement directive is not linked to WTO but to the EU, and the director of the hospital said, I cannot understand why we are obliged to buy potatoes from Poland or from Spain when we have perfect potatoes grown on Rödön across the bay. And then we know that the money stays in our community and it supports our farmers. And I think he had a point. So free trade is a very good principle, but it's not a goal in itself. It's a means to reach a goal. So I think part of what we are discussing here is really, really interesting. And again, the only positive aspect of Trump is that now some issues which were so sacrosanct we couldn't discuss before, at least we can discuss them now. But it's very interesting to hear this. But again then, going back to your jeans, pair of jeans, I understand that it's difficult to sell them if they are 3,000.
No, there are only 449 cases, pairs of them, and they are also...
Okay.
You will not be able to find anyone.
But you will not be able to sell tens of thousands of them, no. But when it comes to, let's call it organic or ecological food, we saw a very, very weak market to start with, but it's picking up, and people are willing to pay much more when they know how the food is produced. So I guess here is a marketing issue. I don't know if I responded to your question, but that's another issue.
Now, I think we talked about marketing a lot, and we're going to have a discussion about how to reach the market then after the coffee break also. But do you think, to go back to that, just to sort of half a minute answer, what can you do to market your initiatives better? If we start with Peter, to make it more public.
Yeah, I mean, our challenge with marketing is that we are producing a commodity which is bought by another chemical industry partner. So it's not as sexy as an electric. It's not as sexy as an electrical car, for example, which everybody knows in his everyday life. So it is quite difficult to market it from our standpoint of view. The only way of marketing or indirect marketing I can think of is to be active in publishing articles in newspaper, maybe having videos or being present at conferences. So providing this consciousness that there is something ongoing and that we are moving towards a post-petroleum society or should move towards a post-petroleum society. But it's not so straightforward. We are not talking about end consumer products really. We are talking about commodities. This is the Balkan challenge maybe.
Yeah. And Tore?
Very tricky task for a small technology company very early in the value chain. But what we try to do is to create the good ideas and approach the consortium, try to create consortium and try to get major brand owners to let's see the possibilities and maybe get them to and which most of them already do today, and maybe enhance that development and really show that there are cases and that there are commodity or specialty chemical opportunities from base chemical value chains and so on. So to really market the possibilities. But I think we need to get the big brand to take the lead.
Yeah, and Birgitta?
A bit more difficult because I'm not trying to sell a concept, but I could say that what we do every day is we take this, and then we tear it apart to the smallest chemical parts, and then the research is to put that in containers of this size to see what you can get in this. Then you have to make it on that scale, and then you have to make it on a scale this, then you have to convince some guys to build something, and they have to convince the industry to buy that idea. And the question is, which ones of the parts of this one is it possible to make a commercially sound case of today, in 10 years, in 15 years? That, I think, is the big question here. And today is very difficult, but we, of course, continue to do this and to show this level and that level and to hand it over to some people with more money. That's what we do every day.
Okay. Ulf.
I think I rest my case. It was well.
Okay, Clara,
Well,
what do you think?
Of course, we have a different role in this area. So, of course, we could support with facts, for instance, and which could be used in EU. When we have funded a lot of projects, for instance, within bioenergy, I know that these reports have played an important role in some debates, etc. And then, of course, our research projects, we try to see where could we spread this information about the projects or examples that could be interesting for public or for certain in certain conferences, etc. So we do some, but we could do more.
Yeah, okay. And Peter?
To continue your discussion there about the scale, from the Vinnova perspective, I think it's important that we have the whole value scale, so in the early stage put in the consumer, so you know what you should focus on.
To me, it seems like we missed the story again, sort of. The story to tell to the public and maybe to the EU, not just to the EU, but also to the public. What do you think?
Therefore, we need some marketing people here.
Yeah. Do we have any? Oh, it's quite many.
So
That's good. Right. Do we have a final question? No? Yeah. Eva Friedman in the top. Would get the microphone. Very short, both question and answers here.
So it's more of a reflection. I think it was last week we heard about a big thing that Tesla is talking about, or at least the research, former research manager, I think. He was in Sweden and they wanted to set up a facility or a plant producing lots of batteries for the electricity for the car manufacturers. This was a huge plant, and I know local municipalities in Sweden are fighting to get this. Whether it will become true or not, I don't know. But they targeted Sweden, not only, I suppose, because he was a Swede, but can we learn something from them? Why are they here in Sweden? Is it just because our clean energy attracts them? Or can this sort of discussion benefit from a success story like that?
Thank you. One comment, maybe.
I can comment if nobody else wants to comment.
Yeah.
I like to comment, as you understand by now, I assume. The difference, I think, between what we are discussing here and Tesla is that Tesla is a commercially available product with a lot of customers. And if they find it if it finds the cheapest possible place to produce their batteries with the best qualified people, if that is Sweden, they will build it in Sweden. If that is not in Sweden, they probably will build it somewhere else. That is my point of view, maybe a little. So.
Okay. Thank you. It's now time for coffee break, but I would like to thank the panel here with some guides.